This meeting, this webinar is titled From Pandemic to Predestined Plan. It's a Purim narrative, meaning it's a story about Purim, because Purim happened at some point in time in the past. There is a date for it. However, as there's a story in the at the end of the Purim Megillah, the scroll, that says that the story happened. However, these events are recalled, and they are made. They are happening again. The story rehappens in a certain way throughout history, and generally it happens every single year, but in particular times I would say it's even more relevant than in others, and for sure in our time it is most relevant. And this is something which we have to discover, not just in the world but in our own lives. So I'm going to go over the story of Purim, although I'm sure you may all be familiar with it, but I'll go over certain points, and then we're going to relate that to our times. The story of Purim happened. This was over 70 years since the destruction of the temple. There was a feeling, that there was somewhat of a despair that there would be a return to those good times when there would be a feeling of closeness and connection with God. And there was a feeling for those that sought to be in power, that they would be able to control destiny, because they saw that God did not rebuild the temple after that time. And this is something which for them was a cause of celebration. They said, let's celebrate. Now we are free from having to conform with God's plan. And they used the vessels of the Holy Temple. They made a big feast. The king Ahasuerus, his Hebrew name was Xerxes, he made a big feast. And he invited the Jews to partake in that feast. In other words, he invited those who were the target, the victims of the destruction of the temple, to partake in a feast celebrating their own downfall. And there was a collective feeling among the Jews that we must do what is asked from the ruling power, because what if we fall out of favor when we show that we're not really in line with this? So they went and they feasted. And the story continues that the king was in merriment, and he, with Haman's advice, he killed Vashti for her subordination, his wife Vashti for subordination. And then there was a continual story where there was a plot against him from two advisors. Mordecai, the Jewish advisor there, saved the king. The king then looked for a new queen. The queen was found to be Queen Esther, who tried to hide herself. But then she was found. The king married her. And the story continues that the next scene is where Haman, the king's evil advisor, who was an Amalekite from Amalek, who was a sworn enemy of the Jewish people and really of those who professed faith in God. And what happened there was that he decided that with this new power, he would go ahead and, having been trusted by the king and now being close to the king, he would have everyone recognize that he is a god, or that he is the almost power, and he had everyone bow down to him. Besides from Mordecai would not bow down. He would not, against the advice of everyone, the king's advisors, those who wanted his own safety, he said, I don't bow down to any human being. I bow down only to my higher power, my supreme creator. And that infuriated Haman. He decided to not only kill Mordecai, but Haman decided to kill all the Jewish people. And not only that, he decided to kill them all in one day. And that would be that was a day before Purim. He decided that he's going to, this is the decision that he's going to have a planned extermination of the Jews. You have the king's permission, his signet ring to sign the document, and then it was sealed. The fate of the Jews was sealed. Mordecai finds out about this through Esther. She finds out about the plot. She tells Mordecai. And then Mordecai does two things. He says to the Jews, he says, it's time for you to fast and to pray, because it doesn't look like we have any other options right now. We are completely at the hands of our higher power, and we see that. And he had warned the Jews not to partake of the feast, to trust in their higher power. But instead, the Jews had decided not to trust in their higher power. And the effect was they were under the influence, at least seemingly. They put themselves into that atmosphere, at that feeling of being under the control of those that govern them, the people that were in control, but not fully controlled. They're not totally controlled. And therefore, they were now subject to those people deciding their fate. So he told the Jews, time to fast, time to pray, time to rely on your higher power and your creator. He told Esther, it's your time to intercede with the king and to plead, to beg on behalf of the Jews. And this is your moment. This is your time to really to shine. And Esther says, but you know that there's a new decree, which Haman was the one who instituted this. She said, the decree is that anybody who comes to the king's chamber without permission receives a death penalty. So how am I supposed to go to the king and intercede on the Jews' behalf? So Mordecai says, it's time to go. This is your time to shine. If you do not go ahead, then God's salvation will come elsewise, but you and your father's house will be lost, meaning your purpose in the world, your purpose to be here will be gone, because you will lose your place in humanity for changing destiny. It's your destiny now. It's your time to move this, and if you don't, you lost it. And God will find out his way some way, but you want to be the player here, it's your chance to shine. And Esther says, okay, well, I'm going to go and go ahead with this. And if somehow I die, if something happens to me, if I get lost, if I get thrown out of the king's palace as his queen, whatever happens, this is my time, and I'm going to go ahead with this. This is my job. She goes ahead. She actually doesn't, instead of beautifying herself, what would normally be expected to seek an audience with the king, she goes and fasts for 3 days, and all of her handmaids fast. And she does things which, when a person's fasting, they don't appear very healthy and very joyous. That would not be a proper way to appear before the king. But she does that. Why? Because she knows this is not about the king. This is about the plan, God's plan. She goes into the king and she intercedes as she asks the king to have a feast with Haman, with the man who's plotting to kill the Jews. And they have the feast. And then Haman again comes out of the feast. He sees Mordecai not bowing. He says, "Oh, okay, this is the end." And his family plot together to build this gallows 50 cubits high. Different opinions about what that size is, but anywhere between 2 to 3 feet. So we're talking about quite a high gallows, and to hang Mordecai on that so that everyone can see. And she had Esther asked for another feast. So Haman is going to expect to have another feast. He builds a gallows so high that you can see it from the king's palace. He'll enjoy the feast while Mordecai is hanging. He'll see Mordecai hanging. That night, the king cannot sleep. And he asks for his records to be read to him. And they reveal the story about Mordecai, who saved the king from a plot of his two advisors to kill him. And the king wonders, how should we reward Mordecai? He was never rewarded before. And then Haman walks in from the courtyard, and the king asks him, what should we do to the man whom the king wishes to honor? Haman, believing himself to be the best and the most powerful, most in control of the world, says, it's got to be me. So he describes all this wonderful grandeur and the king's horse and the king's cloak. Everything should be brought for him, and the king's crown. He should be paraded throughout the capital city. And the king then turns around and gives him the shocker of his life. Go do that for Mordecai. And now he's meant to do this for his sworn enemy. He is completely his whole feeling of control, his whole feeling of his whole concept that I have become the idol. He idolized himself. Now is completely taken down by his having to reward Mordecai, take him in control, put him on the king's horse. Well, he's got to do what the king commanded. So then he goes and takes the king's horse and the king's cloak and the king's crown, puts it on Mordecai, and walks Mordecai throughout the street. And he is embarrassed, and he is sullied by the crowd and by others and by his family. Even they think he's Mordecai, and they make him dirty. So he is finished with his whole procedure, and he's completely dejected. They bring him to the king's palace for the feast, because this is the time he's got to come to the feast. This is the very next day. He's got to come to the feast. And all in one day, he's gone down from being the pinnacle of power to the lowest of low. And then he comes to the feast, and he still thinks he can still somehow control the situation. So he's sitting there, and then Esther gets up and says, okay, now's her time. She says, King, I have a request from you. She starts crying. She says, would you please save myself and my people, that we are now destined to be killed? The king says, how could that be? Who would have thought to kill my wife and her people? She had not revealed to the king that she was Jewish before. And she turns to Haman and says, this man, the evil Haman, he wants to kill us all. This is also a thought that crossed the king's mind. He really wants to kill the king. He wants to take complete control of everything. The king he gets terribly furious. He goes out to, take a moment to take a breath. And Haman tries to attack Queen Esther. He says, at least I'll kill her. Or he tries to intercede with her. He tries to do all these things that he could possibly do to gain control, to appease her, to attack her, to force her, to manipulate her, somehow to get control of the situation. The king comes back. He sees what's going on. He says, this man's got to go on the same gallows that Mordecai was meant to be hanged. And they hang him and his sons. And then on the day that he had decided to kill the Jews, all of his family and his followers were put to death. That story happened, we're talking about 5th century BCE. Fast forward to 1945. We had the world had witnessed a terrible destruction. This is not just a completely unheard of destruction to all of mankind, and particularly there was a terrible destruction that claimed the lives of the 6 million Jews, the Holocaust. An incomparable tragedy. 70 years later, there's been no resurgence. There's been a resurgence of Judaism, but no resurgence of Jewish control. There was, even before the Holocaust, there was a lot of power in the world of goodness, seen as power of goodness. There was a Jewish people had reached a lot of power, and then there was a complete destruction. And then again, there was once again a resurgence of goodness. There are many Jews in power in different parts of the government, many people in the world that want to do good. And yet there seems to be at this point that there's a tapering of goodness in the world. We see terrible pandemic. We see a lot of people that are corrupt, taking advantage of others. We seemingly see an endless cycle now of people trying to control, people trying to take advantage of the world and take the destiny that they want. They say God's not in control. It's been over quite a few years. The Holocaust happened, the World War II happened. Where was God then? If he hasn't shown his face in over 70 years, he's not going to show his face. He's not going to uphold the rule of justice, of goodness in the world. Let's take control. Let's do what we want. Let's take the world into our own hands, and let's manipulate it to best suit ourselves. If it means that others are going to be hurt by that, if it means that lives are going to be lost, if it means that people are going to suffer, that's part of our plan, because in the end we get to be on top. The very day that there was a repentance, there was a feeling of a change of heart. That point in time was the Jews, but this time it's all of us. When there's a change of heart from feeling that we can trust the powers that be, we can trust the human experiment to provide for us all that we need. The change of heart says that doesn't work. We have to rely on our higher power. We have to rely on God. We have to know that there's a supreme power that controls our destiny. Then there is a change in the heart of the king. The sages say that the name Achashverosh has a Hebrew correlation to the words Acharit Vreshit Shalom. The king who, from the beginning to the end, it's all his, referring to God. In our world, when we act a certain way or when we have a certain thought process, the God, the controlling God, the merciful God, the kind God, the one that we love, the one that shows himself to us, when we divert our attention from him, we bring into power those that are not so good. That's the physical correlation, the negative correlation of an effect of our own choices. But then when we decide to change our heart, that destiny, that power that seemed to control all that is, and seemed to be bent on destroying the good in the world, now changes itself around and chooses to honor that which is good, chooses to punish that which is evil, and to honor the destiny for those that wish to serve God's destiny, God's choice for humanity. What's interesting is that the whole story from the beginning, it started with the Jews feasting and ended with the Jews feasting. The Jewish holidays are all about enjoying, partying, having food, being part of, getting involved with the day. But in a deeper sense, we are bringing a certain feeling into ourselves. When somebody eats, they're just enjoying the process. They're really getting involved with it. And, when the Jews were part of that process, they not only got involved with the politics and they enjoyed that power, that connection to power, but they feasted on it. It became very hard for them to really take that stand, they got really part of that, that scene. To get out of that, there had to be a very strong push, a very strong shakeup in what you call the whole world. Ahasuerus at that time was the ruler of all civilized world. There's no place the Jews could escape. And then they had to be shaken up from that feeling that they could control, they could enjoy. And then once they started to rely on God and rely on their higher power and their true destiny, then they could eat, they could partake in the joyous feelings of appreciation of their destiny, appreciation of relying on God. Now, that's not easy to rely on God. That means we give a lot of control, right? And we all want to have some control. There's a famous story about people play the lottery. They all want to have that feeling that I will win, I will become lucky, I will control my destiny. So that was the story of Sam, who went and played the lottery, and the number was 50, and he won. And everybody came to congratulate him. And they said, "Well, how do you get the right number? What was your secret to success?" Well, he said it was a little bit of thought process that I figured it out, and a little bit of luck. So what was they asked him, what was your thinking? How do you figure this one out? He said, well, very simple. 7's a great number. 7 days in the week, it seems like a great number. And 7 times 7, that's got to be the best number. So that's the number that I went for. I said, Sam, 7 times 7 is 49, not 50. So, that's where a little bit of luck came in. We all want to think that it's our little, we can control life. It's what we're thinking about, that can control life. And if not, we have a little luck to help us out. It's our luck, though. We control our destiny in some way. But that's not the truth. The truth is that our destiny is really controlled by our higher power. But he wants our destiny to be good for us. The only way that can be good for us is if we are part of the destiny by being in alignment with the good that the destiny is meant to produce. So if we have goodness towards others, then we can have a peaceful world. If we be kind towards others, it's a kind world. If we can be moral people ourselves, then we can expect the world to be a moral place. If we want to take the luxury of enjoying ourselves where we can cut the corners, it comes back to affect us. And that's sometimes the whole world feels that. Sometimes it will be a majority of the world that can affect the world in a very powerful way. But how do we turn that around? We turn around by those of us who do understand that it's God's power and God's plan, by getting back into that action. If it means to pray, if it means to do goodness to each other, if it means to learn, if it means to fast, whether it means, in a real way or it means even figuratively, not necessarily to not eat food, but to fast from things that are just giving us pleasure, that we are constantly addicted to give us pleasure all the time. That changes us around. And this is, I would say, a narrative about the whole story of the pandemic here. We can look at the pandemic as a very terrible, terrible situation, and it really is. And there's a lot of pain that's caused to people, and we cannot understand why individuals are undergoing this pain. Even Moses himself could never understand the pain that an individual goes through. That's only in the hands of God, and only God can understand that. But to then go and say, there's some nice things that have come out from the pandemic. There's been some better connection between people. There's been some more self-reflection. That does not do justice to the pain that the world is going through and the pain that the individuals are going through. If there's an event that's happening that is so world-reaching, that is so world-shaking, that because of that, we are all affected and we are all being cut off from the life that we thought was normal. There's got to be a bigger plan here. There's got to be a real change here happening. But what's really happening? What's happening is that God is telling us, he's saying the world needs to shake itself loose from feasting on the distractions, whether it be politics or sports, or eating at the fanciest restaurant, or having that enjoyment of sometimes we have the gossip and running after the idolizing certain people in the show business, whatever it may be that we as humanity have become used to. We become used to watching the news all the time. We have to know what's happening, and today you need to know what the weather is the next hour. All these things which have become not necessarily about let me plan for my future, but more about I got to be in control. I have to know what's happening. I can't be on the loose. I can't have to rely on my higher power because what's going to be. So the pandemic has cut us loose from a lot of those things. We may still have it in some way. It's still there as a choice. What kind of a choice is it now? It's become real to us that choice is the distraction that has led us away from our true support, which is our higher power. So now we have a time when we can really put ourselves in the right place. We can really get in touch with our higher power. We have that opportunity. And this is paving the path towards our future, when very soon that will be the only pursuit. Being more in touch with ourselves, in our true selves, our true destiny and purpose, being in touch with others in their true destiny and purpose, and being in touch with our higher power and relating to our higher power. That's going to be the true ultimate world. And that's what's going to be happening soon. The moment, or for us, the day, the sooner we are able to recognize that, share that with others, have a collective feeling that we need to rely on God, pray to him, learn about what his destiny is for us with the 7 universal principles corresponding to the 7 laws that were given to Noah from the beginning of mankind. The sooner that we can understand that whatever thoughts we have of being in control, they're only illusion. The true control is in the hands of God. When that happens, when we spread that message to others, when we can bring that message to society, the king's heart is changed. It's awakened. That connection to God is once again in place. And then within a very short amount of time, that which took a long period of time, the destruction to plan out, in such a short period of time, within a day, completely turns around. And then the good is apparent in the world. God is in control, and we will feast. We will enjoy the fruits of our labor of relying on God and being in touch with him. We'll enjoy that. It will become our best delicacy. In short, the pandemic is a predestined plan. It was meant to happen. We don't know why the pain and suffering is happening to individuals, but we do know there is a plan here. But we can see the plan. It's not just that there's some nice things coming out of this. The world shakeup is meant for us to be in touch with our higher power. The more we can make that happen, the faster we can make that happen, the sooner this pandemic ends. The sooner we'll be in that reality where all good is revealed, where our higher power connects to us and takes care of us in a very loving, caring way. And I beseech each and every one of you to be a part of this plan, to be a part of sharing this with your community, with those around you, with your friends, your family. Because I guarantee you, when we are in touch with our higher power, all this suffering will end. May it happen for all of us, for you and for me and for everyone, and for our entire world very soon. Thank you very much for joining this session. I'm going to now take some time for everyone to share your thoughts, and I very much appreciate your thoughts either in the chat over here on the Zoom, or you can share your thoughts on the Facebook Live, and I would be happy to address them to my best capability. Okay, let's see if anything has come up here. All right. Okay, we'll start with the comments on Zoom. And again, I'm going to pick which ones I can answer. Not all of them can I answer, but hopefully we should be able to address several of them. If you have any thoughts you want to share about this topic, or about how you can bring it to your own life, or how you actually are bringing it to your own life, I'm so happy to hear that. And definitely please share it on the chat. You're welcome to do so on Facebook or on the Zoom. And before I do get to that chat, those thoughts, I do want to say that really this is a journey. It's a journey for a discovery for all of us. We may obviously take some time, but in God's time it will happen. I thank you all for your support. Those that have supported us financially, those who have supported us by being part of this, those who have been part of this by volunteering to build your community, little community, those that are volunteering to build a worldwide community in your own language. I'm so grateful, and this is all happening. The platform that we are building for this is happening in a very short amount of time. We are really moving fast to that direction, and I thank you all for being part of this. I will be hopefully notifying you all very soon about our new United Study website, which will be able to connect to a local community in your own language, and to really to share a meaningful connection with others. Okay, let's try to see if I'm having a little hard time pulling up the Facebook thoughts. So let me see if I can at least pull up the Zoom thoughts. Okay, here. Okay. So we have one. I really appreciate Stefano. Thank you so much. You said it, and now more than ever, it's time to help others through voluntary work, through donations. Those suffering need it. Really so true. There can be no better thing than giving support to others, recognizing that what we have was given to us by a higher power for two reasons. Obviously, because we're meant to fulfill our destiny, and then we're meant to share with others. So that money, in whatever we can, give to others who are in need, whether physically or spiritually, which means give someone else a physical help, which is always the most important thing. If somebody sees a need, they need some food, they need to be given a word of kindness, a word of support. That's also a physical concept there. They need to be helped out in whatever way. That is most important. Supporting the message to them, bringing the message to learn about what's happening, giving them the feeling that there's a reason why this is happening. A lot of people feel that they're just lost in this sea of despair, and there can be no more beautiful thing than giving someone hope, giving someone a feeling of purpose, of meaning in life, and showing them what they can do to make this better. They can be involved in 7 universal principles by learning about it, by sharing it, by living it. One of the 7 universal principles is the concept of giving charity. And charity can be done in many ways. So I encourage everyone to be involved in that in whatever way you can, whether it's giving charity to somebody in need locally, whether it's giving charity to unite the world, which will help us to spread the message of the 7 universal principles and encourage others to give charity, whether it's going to be going out and sharing a message. That's the most beautiful thing. Sharing the message of the 7 universal principles, letting everyone know there is a way for humankind to become its ultimate purpose. Okay. There was one other thought that I received actually prior to this session, and I wanted to share it here. This is somebody who told me, who said to me, I don't understand how it could be that we're seeing people with so much lack of awareness of what's going on. Why is it people are so lost in our world? So much confusion. They don't know what's right, what's wrong. They don't know whether to be involved with certain practices or not. They don't know whether to be involved with to go along with what whatever the people around them are saying, or to follow their own direction. My reply to that person was, that's part of the confusion that we brought upon ourselves by choosing that. We chose to be confused because we wanted that choice to choose, whether to be in God's plan or our own thoughts. And the way to get out of this is by choosing God's plan, because there are so many options. There's a lot of confusion out there. That's just part of our own creation. But again, we can't even control that. This is part of the plan, God's plan. He's trying to teach us through what we're seeing, that the confusion that we're seeing is meant for us to decide and choose clarity. If we always had the clarity, it wouldn't be a great, big deal. But when we can choose clarity from amidst confusion, that's powerful. That shows that we really truly desire God, and we truly desire connection to Him. That's my thoughts on that one. If anybody has one more thought to share here, I will address it. Some people have asked in the past, what can we do? What can we do practically? And that's always, for me, that's always been the one question that needs to be asked, because, in theory is always nice. Talking is always very nice. But until there is action, it's all words, right? We need to actually be able to take this and make it real. So we're going to share, if everyone can, just take a moment to right now write down, if you can, one action you could take. Let it be big, let it be small, but let it be heartfelt, let it be real, that you're going to take on. And if it's going to be a regular time, let it be something which is something which you feel you can make sure that you can continue that. If it's a one time, then do it right away. Let it be something which you feel you're putting your heart and soul into, that you know that this is really going to make a difference to yourself and to the world. And let's take the example of Mordecai. What did he do in the beginning? When all was going down, he decided, I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to succumb. I'm not going to say that those are in power over me and decide my destiny can force me to bow. They think that they're in charge of my destiny. They're not. They can idolize themselves, but they're not my idol. I chose God. So even just not bowing down, taking a stand, believing in the truth, taking a moment to say to yourself, I know what's right. I know that God's running the world. I know there's a plan here. I don't despair. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to take the time to spread this to others. We have one thought came in just now. We have a program called Mentor a Kid. That's a great idea. Share your knowledge with someone who is close with you, that can be that looks up to you and can share that can share in your thoughts and can be positively influenced. Bring that to your own place. We can all have each other's thoughts, and again, this does not need to be a one person activity. You can share that among yourselves if you have your friends, or you have your family community, those that you know. If you'd like to discuss what you can do, the thoughts that one person has can be helpful to someone else. I'm going to finish this program with giving us all a blessing, including myself, that we find our true purpose. We realize that it's all in God's hands. We can't make it happen, but we can rely on Him. We're going to do our part, and that's from our side what will make it happen. Thank you all, and thank you all for being part of Unite to Study and Unite the World. I truly appreciate your involvement, your heartfelt conviction in good, and your willingness to spread a message of goodness to humankind that will usher in a time of true peace, true happiness, true kindness and morality, and true connection to God.